So I was asked to comment on a disagreement between two people with regard to how to translate the word ahad in the phrase Aḥad ha-sharīm ha-rishonim in Daniel 10:13. Apparently, as I understand it, the disagreement is over whether ahad there should be translated first or one, first of or one of. So, and it's my understanding that one side in the disagreement made an appeal to Strong's Concordance, basically noting, well, look, I looked up the Strong's number, and Strong says it can, one of the possible meanings is first. So, just to be clear here, Strong's isn't even really a dictionary. I mean, it's a concordance, and the reason why that's significant, why that distinction is significant, is because all Strong's is doing is showing how a word has been translated in specifically the King James Bible without much reference to context and how it can be used within different contexts and so on. So, merely appealing to a list of ways that a word has been translated in Strong's doesn't really tell us much about what a word means within a given context. That said, notice that in the screenshot which was provided, there's this phrase, masculine singular construct, right? And this is not from Strong's, but from whatever source which was also using Strong's. This is significant because that provides the way in which the word is being used, because you have the Strong's Concordance will give you just simply the word echad, which can be used in different ways. It can be used in a masculine way, in a feminine way, and also in a way that stands alone, but also in a construct state, or in a situation where it's in a relationship with a noun that follows. Okay, so let's turn to the verse now. Now, here's a volume I have of Mechalot Gedolot, to the Nevi'im, to the prophets, and I'm just going to turn to it now. It'll have the Hebrew text of Daniel. There are portions of Daniel in Hebrew, portions in Aramaic. This particular verse is in Hebrew, and I'm going to turn to it now. Forget the delay. So here we go. Again, this is Daniel 10. You see the little yod, and again, verse 13. So the word in question is Aḥad, to be distinguished from Echad, right? There's Echad and then there's Aḥad. And in this particular instance, Aḥad is followed by the plural noun ha-sharīm. And so you have Aḥad, that's why it's Aḥad. It's in the construct state. By the way, the word rishon also appears in the previous verse. That's the primary word you would use for first. But anyway, we're going to be focusing on the word Aḥad and how to translate this, Aḥad ha-sharīm, right? To make a quick point about the construct state, let me turn to this grammar of biblical Hebrew. You could turn to basically any grammar. It doesn't have to be this particular book, but any basic grammar of biblical Hebrew will help make this point. Let me just find this page where, oh, okay, here we go. So here, notice here, this is the word echad by itself, and then here's how it's rendered when it's in a construct form, ahad, right? So that's significant. The reason why the word in this verse is ahad rather than echad is because it's in a construct state. It's in a relationship with the noun that follows, right? So here's a helpful rule of thumb. Anytime you have the word ahad, right, and again, this, which is to say echad in the masculine construct form, anytime you have ahad followed by a plural noun or pronoun, it simply means one of those things, right? That's the straightforward meaning. So, for example, you could have Aḥad ha-sharīm, right? One of the mountains, or to use a pronoun instead, a plural pronoun, you might say Aḥad mehem, right? One from among them, or something like that, right? One of them. And so keep this rule in mind. Interestingly, and perhaps ironically, it can be said that this rule is reflected in the King James Version itself. And what I mean by that is, here's a list of all verses in the Old Testament where the word ahad, which again is echad in the masculine construct form, where ahad is followed by either a plural noun or a plural pronoun, right? And in not a single instance does the King James Bible ever translate it first. If it wanted to say first of, and then a group of a plural noun or plural pronoun, it would use rishon. Ahad literally means one of. So in all these verses in the King James Bible, they're rendered one of. A few of them are rendered a bit more figuratively as any, right? But never is it rendered first of. And it sort of begs a question, because if someone's going to appeal to Strong's, that's usually a giveaway that they have a preference towards the King James Bible. And so it begs the question, why does the King James Bible never translate Aḥad followed by a plural noun or plural pronoun as first of, right? Did the King James mistranslate all these verses? Or if someone's going to argue that, well, yes, it can also mean one of, but in specifically Daniel 10:13, it means first of, that's going to beg the question, what textual indicator necessitates that interpretation in that particular verse? And if there's none, then, it begs the question, why not go with the straightforward reading that even the King James Bible went with, which is one of? That's the primary meaning. So with that, I'll simply close here. You can look over this list at your leisure and check these verses for yourself. I would have to say that in this dispute, with all due respect to both participants, it seems to me that the phrase Aḥad ha-sharīm should simply be translated one of the princes. Or, of course, it's followed by Rishonim. So, Aḥad ha-sharīm ha-rishonim, one of the primary princes, or I think the King James has one of the chiefly princes, something like that, right? One of the first princes, etc. And so with that, that's my comment on this apparent disagreement, apparent dispute. Clearly, the text points to one of. I hope this helps. On that note, God bless.